is a senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kirian. Thank you.
All right, and also with us here in the studio is me, Akinsiju, financial and investment analyst. So, well, of course, it's a known face on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
All right.
And also joining us via Zoom from Lisbon for this conversation is Ambassador Alex Kefas, and he's Nigeria's ambassador to Portugal. Your Excellency, thank you very much for joining us. We are glad you could make it.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's begin with you, Your Excellency. This visit by President Buhari to Portugal has been roundly described as first-class success. Experts and economic experts who've been analyzing the visit, say it is a first-class success. Can you give us, lead us into this success and give us an idea of how it all went?
Well, thank you so much, Good Morning Nigerians. I would like first of all to thank His Excellency President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, for accepting to pay this important, unique, and exceptional state visit to Portugal. This visit has long been overdue. It was highly expected, both here in Portugal. Mr. President's arrival in Portugal was very unique. It is indeed a great pleasure to have our leader in Portugal. Nigeria and Portugal, the relations dated back to 1976, when the two countries established their diplomatic relations at ambassadorial level. The visit of Mr. President brought in a very important, remarkable landmark in the history of our bilateral relationship. We were indeed grateful to Mr. President for finding it to come to Portugal. Nigeria and Portugal share important bilateral relationship in the area of economy. We have Portugal importing 60% of its gas resources from Nigeria, and Nigeria imports from Portugal mostly manufactured goods, pharmaceuticals, wine, etc. So to us, that this visit that led to so many agreements that were signed, we are also hoping that these agreements will be fully implemented.
All right, Your Excellency, let me also ask you to do further evaluation of this visit, which you described as first class and very important. Claire and I were actually, tracing the history of Nigeria-Portugal relations in terms of trade and what have you, which dated back to 15th century, and all that. In fact, Portuguese were the first to come into Nigeria at the time. Now, we have not been able to leverage on that, for over decades now. And today, of course, from what you have said, the president is trying to rekindle the relationship between us and Portugal. What will be your takeaway, from these meetings, with respect to all the MOUs that have been signed during that visit? What will you be telling Nigerians as our representative in that country to say, look, Nigerians, this is part of what you're going to get by this kind of new engagement?
Thank you so much. The visit of Mr. President has led to an upsurge in our bilateral relationship. So the agreements that were signed that are very, very important to us we have the investment and trade between the two countries. Particularly, we had Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, and its counterpart were able to sign this important agreement. Of course, that to propel our economy, we need private sectors, where NASIMA was also able to sign agreement with the Portuguese counterpart. Other areas of importance, of course, to us, there was agreement signed between the two countries that was in the area of youth and sport. Of course, we know that we are lovers of sport. Currently, we have nearly 300 Nigerian footballers playing in Portuguese clubs. So this agreement will go a long way by bringing in so many of our youths that who want to have their own profession in football. So this agreement is really indeed very important to us. And the Minister of Youth and Sport was here during the meeting. He was also encouraged to visit the sports city, so to see things by himself. And of course, we are all aware that the new coach that we just recruited is a Portuguese. So this important instrument will now give way for further collaborations in the area of sports. Then another important agreement that were signed, we have political consultation between the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Portuguese Minister of Foreign Affairs here, where the two foreign ministers were able now to kick start. That will lead to some other areas of cooperation, like the joint commission that we are also expecting. So after these political consultations, we are going to have a joint commission. So joint commission is an umbrella that will bring in so many other activities. Also, we had agreement that were signed in the area of women affairs, so which is very important. So this capture area that will also advance the interests of women, and not only women, including children. So these are agreements that I believe that would go a long way. Apart from this agreement, of course, Mr. President also made it clear to his counterpart that we also need to engage Portugal in other areas like agriculture, energy, investment, and also other areas that would also promote this bilateral relationship. Not only gas, as you are aware, Portugal imports more of gas from Nigeria. So this visit has now brought the two business communities. As you are aware, that there was a business forum where we had about nearly 60 businessmen and women that came to Portugal. So that event was colorful, very unique, first in the history of our bilateral relationship. Mr. President also discussed with his counterpart the need for collaboration in the area of security. Of course, we are all aware that Nigeria is battling with insecurity issues. Portugal has been help to so many countries in Africa, in particular Mozambique and Central African Republic. It is also helping Guinea-Bissau. So the president called our president to continue to assist, and also thank him for doing so. So these are the areas that we believe that the two countries can now have a very important lead. So in the past, the relationship has been not been so much positive, in the sense that Portuguese people don't really know Nigerians. Equally, Nigerians don't know Portuguese. So, but this visit has now brought these two people together to really understand themselves. So, people-to-people contact is very, very key. So I believe that from now, that
Ambassador Kefas, thank you. You've reeled out, in fact, almost all the outcomes here. But as we go deeper into the conversation, we'll take each of those items one by one. Let me also bring into our conversation someone who was also visible at that visit, and that's Malam Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media and Publicity. I'd like for you to tell us whether you felt at home. We know that Portugal and Nigeria, share some very democratic values, and like the ambassador says, this is taking the ambassadorial relationship to the next level. Was it like homecoming for the Nigerian delegation?
Yeah, I've been privileged to accompany the president to a number of these visits, and I must say that this was really outstanding. Looking at the full commitment of the host country, Portuguese, that having to throw everything, all levels of authority were involved in this visit. It's rare to see, everyone coming to the table, President, Prime Minister, President of National Assembly, even Mayor of the capital city, all of them being present, at one or two events at which our president, was being honored. It's very clear that they are yearning for very close, strategic relationship with Nigeria. And of course, you don't blame them because these are taken very long in coming. The ambassador has been speaking, and the introductory report did say this. Where did they miss out when they were the first country that they made contact, with the territory now called Nigeria? They gave Lagos its own name.
Precisely.
So they were there from the beginning, well ahead of the British. But then you can see that the level of engagement had really been, in fact, I think the president's visit is in effect, to see that there are relationships that have been ignored or abandoned for some time and had not been, effectively taken up in order to ensure that we drive the benefits of the president of President Sousa of Portugal, in welcoming the president, said, I have waited 6 years for you to come. He'd been nagging our president to come and visit 6 years until this one now came. So really the visit had come at a very important trajectory in the relations between our two countries, and a clear indication that the two countries are ready for, in fact, the president of Portugal called it a marriage that has just been consummated between our two nations.
Okay, but thank you. Marriage, business and diplomatic marriage, if you ask me, and having traced the history of the Portuguese of Nigeria, it's understandable that the president made this move from all you have explained, as well as Ambassador Kefas in Lisbon there. Okay, let's turn to Ni Akinsijo. The MOU signed cut across interests in oil and gas, politics, diplomatic relations, training, research, agriculture, and what have you. And what could come to mind is how will these sectors be properly coordinated with respect to the bilateral agreements reached, and how would that be patterned in such a way that we can have a successful implementation of whatever is agreed? Because in the past we have had several bilateral engagements with the international community, and in some cases you may not have results. Just a few weeks ago, the Czech Republic entered into agreement with Nigeria with respect to technology transfer, and the president himself inaugurated a committee on that way back in 2021, and now it is manifesting. One would like to see such, with respect to the visits to Portugal.
Thank you. The substance of MOU is actually anchored on the historical relationship between two countries. If you have bilateral relationship, between amongst two people, two countries. So for me, I think already there's a momentum around the manifestation of the close to 10 MOUs signed. There is an ongoing relationship. Though it's been in a similar format over the years. If we had some more years to the 6 years President Sousa had been waiting for President Muhammadu Buhari, it would be about 17 years since a Nigerian leader visited Portugal, or since there was even a formal engagement between a Nigerian leader and a Portuguese leader. So this is a hallmark visitation, as it were, for me, especially considering the fact of history, because history is important in bilateral relationship. It has been said that pre-colonial period we've had engagements and interaction with the Portuguese people. In fact, the Portuguese had representation in the Benin Empire Palace, in those days. So and now there's been a development over the years. I'm talking about recent times, where Portuguese companies, and businesses have been relating, substantively with Nigerian government and businesses too. The Kano Maradi railway line is being constructed, by a Portuguese company. And to that extent, what is even impressive is that there's a general belief that railway constructions would be undertaken only by the Chinese companies. So when there's an assumption that the Kano Maradi line is also going to be constructed by the Chinese, but no, I think an international bidding, was facilitated, and the Portuguese company was involved, and of course secured on a very transparent basis, secured the contract, to construct, and they have now also perhaps become at par with the Chinese company that is putting together a University of Railway, the Railway Transportation University in Nigeria. The Motor Engil, the company that is constructing the Kano Maradi line, is also putting together a University of Railway Transportation too. And even more than that, I know that 300 engineers are to be sent to Portugal for training, along so that it will be, you have Nigerian content in the construction. So that is, of course, facilitating jobs, for Nigerians, and that it will be these Nigerians that will also, at least at the middle-level cadre, it will be these Nigerian engineers that will be involved in this construction. That is good to develop that industry. Now, going forward, I am believing that this talk about gas is a major game changer for us. Nigeria is seen to be a gas endemic jurisdiction, but we have come into a dilemma over the last 1 or 2 years with the campaigns in metropolitan Europe, capitals of Europe, against carbon emissions. So much that some countries in Europe are trying to declare gas, as it were, a dirty fuel. And meanwhile, we are saying, yes, we understand the issues around emissions, but as developing countries, there is a need to also classify gas as a transition, energy, so that because that campaign is affecting investments, in exploration and production of gas. And we have more than 200 million metric tons, cubic feet of gas. Somewhere is still lying fallow that we need to transform into commercial values. So if we have a country in Europe that is desirous of continuous engagement, with our gas, it means that we still have huge hope for revenue generation, especially foreign exchange in that section. And I heard, of course, that the President Sousa declared that is willing to to pipe gas, under the sea from Nigeria to Portugal. So the prospect for me is huge.
Okay, thank you. I like the prospects that you used to target, and indeed, I return to Lisbon and bring into a conversation again the Ambassador Alex Kefas. Nigeria again is looking towards Portugal for partnership in the area of security, and I'm wondering if you could give us some ideas or some insight into Portugal's capacity in this regard, and how we will leverage on whatever partnership we are forging in the area of intelligence sharing.
Thank you so much. Security is very key during the discussion between the two presidents, because without security, of course, that we cannot have stability, and then, of course, there wouldn't be any economic development. Portugal, of course, we have that military cooperation. Portugal has been of great assistance to Africa. Like Portugal is involved, like I said before, in the training and intelligence sharing to countries like Central African Republic, and then of course the Sahel, then Mozambique, and then Guinea-Bissau. So it was part of the discussion, Mr. President, that solicited the assistance of the Portuguese in assisting Nigeria with intelligence sharing and the training of its armed forces. So this is very key for us to really defeat the insurgency. So it is a great concern that not only the insecurity that we have in the Sahel, it is a great concern. We also have issues of security in the Gulf of Guinea. So Portuguese Navy already is also participating with our own armed forces to curb the menace of piracy. So Portugal, of course, has a comparative advantage. Don't forget that most of the time that Portugal has been attending our regular annual naval exercises. So it is an important partner that we can achieve if we genuinely and then follow up these issues, so that Nigerians have come to realize that Portuguese people, they are very nice people, are ready to work with Africa. They have been working with most of the Portuguese colonies. So it is part of this that now this visit will now bring the Portuguese security apparatus with Nigerian security systems, so that we're able to work together, to collaborate in order to defeat terrorism in not only in Africa also, but in particular our own country. So this is very important, and I believe that this will be achieved in the shortest possible time.
Okay, Ambassador Kefa, thank you. I also like to ask Malam Garba Shehu some question, because the ambassador has said that Portugal has comparative advantage in this area of security and military intelligence, and I'm wondering if you consider the fact that even the colonies or the countries within Africa, Guinea-Bissau, Sao Tome and Principe, and even Cape Verde, they're not really are stable, and even Nigeria provides some form of stability, in other areas for these countries. So, what exactly are we, eliciting from Portugal in the area of security?
Well, I think that the scenario speaks to the convergence that we are witnessing or about to witness between their strategic interests in the region and our own. Yes, it is true. Portugal has also, an association of their, former colonial territory with their former colonial, as we have our own Commonwealth and so on. I think that it resonates very well with them that in spite of Nigeria being outside of that fold, Nigeria has shown commitment in matters of security and stability in these former colonial territories of Portugal, particularly in Guinea-Bissau. If you recall some months back, I guess sometime last year, when they had a disputed election in Guinea-Bissau, and there was a hostile parliament and hostile it was Nigeria's interest in Guinea-Bissau and in ensuring, the stabilization of that country and sustenance of democracy that ensured that, they didn't play games with the outcome of them. And in the end, of course, the president, the prime minister, Umaru Sissoco, was inaugurated after the Constitutional Court has given its backing eventually. So, and the matters of security are no longer confined to the Sahel region. They are creeping into the coastal states as well. So if you're a coastal state and you think that this problem had belonged to those of us in the Sahel, now you have a common thing to share. So we have much to worry about. And so therefore, yes, they are present for peacekeeping, roles in this part of the world. And so we will share responsibility, we will do these things. We need every hand to be on deck. And even in the matters of the transportation, the exportation of gas that we so want to do, you can see clearly that there is also another convergence there, because you have two plans. And the GMD of NNPC Mirakela was there. They had a stand at the business side of the discussions. And the Portuguese were quick to say, look, it is better you take the maritime route to Europe than the trans-Saharan route for reasons of security. And you know that Portugal had been a maritime power. In fact, perhaps the earliest global maritime power.
Precisely.
Because that's why they were here ahead of all the others. So it's security would bring us working together. We're already buying from them drones, for instance. And so they're making advances in some of these areas.
Okay, thank you. Let's return to I can see you once more. I like the term you used, we say gas endemic jurisdiction. In fact, Nigeria is actually sitting on a 206.53 trillion cubic feet of gas, and of course, in dollars, it could go about over 803.4 trillion dollars, according to estimation. All right. So now with the channel, being opened now between us and Portugal, and with the current situation with respect to gas, globally, we've talked about transatlantic gas pipeline and what have you. So how will these kind of relations now being established with Portugal impact on this project now that Nigeria we want to explore avenues to sell her gas, which of course will have in abundance?
Well, when I heard that news, I was quite excited, because we're coming to a time when the natural resources that had been the mainstay of our economy had become more or less threatened, especially with the European, I don't want to use the word global, the European campaign against so-called dirty fuel. It's as if our resources are going to be locked in, because investors are actually jetting out, of investing in crude oil, gas, and all that, because of this campaign about dirty fuel. Now, what that does is to reduce capacity even of plants and wells that are in operation now. It reduces capacity for exploration, for discovery of new possibilities, new frontiers and all that. And again, that would have a ricochet effect, on employment, on job creation, on values, on exports, on earnings, revenues and all that. So when you have a major European player making this intervention, it is not just about Portugal alone. It has its own contagious effect. Other European countries will start looking towards Nigeria as a major challenges solution. I mean, major solution to the gas supply, the supply chain disruption they are having with Russia and all that because of this Russian-Ukraine conflict. So now, if we are able to have that, one, it means that we will now have more investors coming into that sector of the economy. It also means that there will be a rejuvenation of activities around that industry. And more than anything else, we will have activities around the natural resources that is ours. And the fact is that this conflict, this Russian-Ukraine conflict, has a telling effect on our revenue earnings, and we are having issues with shortage of foreign exchange, dollar especially. So with the coming of investors, of course we'll be talking of capital importation. We'll have more money coming into the system, and more than that, we should also wonder, it's not an immediate thing because it's about trafficking investors, from the metropolitan countries and metropolitan capitals of the world into Nigeria once again. Now you have an excitement around the oil and gas industry. Oil and gas, especially for us, has become a major player in energy provision, in domestic use and all that. So if we have more people, more investors coming in to invest, it's good for the economy. We are going to have a rebounding economy. For instance, I tell people that 2019 was supposed to be our takeoff, especially under President Buhari. But we had that slowdown with the global crude oil pricing in 2014 that snowballed into a recession in 2016. Thank God the right policies were applied. We were exiting that and actually was going to start flying in 2019. By 2019, we started having a slowdown that now, peaked with the COVID-19 crisis. As we were getting out of that COVID-19 crisis, that also impacted price of crude oil, and quantity sold, and of course that has multiplier effect on the Nigerian economy. We were getting out of that when we had the Russian-Ukraine crisis. So, as it were, this is a serious beacon of hope, for the rejuvenation of that industry.
Indeed, Niyi, and I was wondering why other countries have not really realized the fact that, they can get their gas supplies from us. But be that as it may, what is happening in Europe now is temporary. I mean, the Russian-Ukrainian war and the disruptions, it's temporary. The war will not last forever. The war will certainly come to an end, and gas supplies to European countries or to the EU would resume again. So now that we're trying to court Portugal to help us, get into the European market, when that happens, what happens?
It's not, big powers, strong powers don't like to be dependent on a source. So while that has been convenient to be dependent on Russia over time, now there's a sudden awakening to the fact that Russia could actually hold us hostage, because we don't have an alternative source of this very important source of energy. So now it's going to be a deliberate a plan, a conscious plan to create alternative to Russian dependency. And of course, where are you looking at? We're looking at Nigeria, So, and this is why the President Souza, is offering the alternative of piping through the maritime channels. So, and it's true, if you have to I don't think it is appropriate to forget the Saharan pipe, to either Algeria or to Morocco. But if you have the alternative again of piping to through the Atlantic beds, it even makes your options very robust, But more importantly, it is like giving life back to the oil and gas sector, because seriously, all over the world, there's this conscious, fear over what will happen to investment, what will happen to these resources that we are depending on. And there has been a huge advocacy around the fact that Europe cannot abandon developing countries who have all these resources. And you expect, just like you transited from coal, to crude oil, and countries like Nigeria abandoned our coal pits, but unfortunately many countries in Europe were actually using coal as source of energy until it became stronger. And some of us are in front of that advocacy to say that you cannot make us abandon our crude oil rigs and our gas, because you think you are transitioning. But when we are offering gas as a transition energy than any other possibilities you are talking about at this point in time. So I think the European countries would consciously, engage us, especially if you have a country like Portugal leading that charge in that front.
Okay, well said. Let's return to Lisbon, where we have Ambassador Kefas. Your Excellency, there are many areas here, because you were talking about 10 MOUs, oil and gas, politics, security, research and development. One would also be tempted to think towards the volume of balance of trade between Nigeria and Portugal. Yes, we export gas to Portugal, but of course we import industrial machinery, drones, spare parts, as a matter of fact, manufactured goods, which of course we don't have. So you can see that it's slope-sided in terms of balance of trade. Now, how will these MOUs address that with respect to ensuring that at least Nigeria could get to a point where we can also export other items rather than just gas? Is there, or are there areas of a special concentration by Nigeria that could, of course, yield fruits in the nearest future?
Thank you so much. Yes, there are areas that we can collaborate with apart from oil and gas, because we have spoken much about gas, and then of course that the other area that we could work and then collaborate, of course, is the area of agriculture. So, and we also have areas like footwear and leather bags. Quite recently, I was in the second biggest city in Portugal, that is Porto. Porto is like Lagos, where you have most of the companies manufacturing virtually everything. And then I was able to visit the national lab that determines the quality of production of footwear and leather products. So this institute, I was able to link them with our National Institute of Leather and Footwear in Kaduna. So they had already held their meetings. So the Portuguese were shocked that Nigeria produces 2 million of shoes per week. So that the two sides had already agreed to work together. So Portugal was ready to build capacity for Nigerian manufacturers of shoes and leatherware. So these two, our own team were supposed to be here in June, but because of the state visit, so it has been shifted to this month. So they also agreed that they are going to assist Nigeria marketing of our food and leather products, because they have the market, and Portugal has comparative advantage in the area of food and leather works, because it is the third largest producer of footwear and leather products in Europe. So it consumes only 10%, so the remaining 90% is for export. So I believe that we can work together with Portugal to achieve this. Another area that we need to also work with Portugal is the area of renewable energy. So we are having issues of energy supply that Portugal, apart from gas, Portugal has efficient supply of energy like solar, that the city of Porto that uses 80 to 90% of energy from solar, not from any other resources. So we can collaborate and do that. So the mayor had indicated interest to invite some state governors to visit Portugal, so to look at all areas. So not only food, and then of course we were able to supply Portugal with other products, that is agricultural products, and then also other products that we have, because Portugal has a bigger market of some of these products. So we need to work together to achieve this.
All right, thank you, Your Excellency Ambassador Kefas. Madam Garbashu, I know the issue of gas piping now is very, very fundamental in this strategic partnership. Now that the Portuguese leader indicated, desire to have the gas piped through the maritime route, they have always been looking out for the safest and easiest route, so they have decided to pass it through the maritime. When will this be concretized, or has it already?
No, as a matter of fact, the gas pipeline is a huge Nigerian dream.
Yes.
That's what I will call it, because Nigeria doesn't have the money to do it. And I'm not even sure Portugal themselves, they have the money to do it. What this understanding on their part means is that they, being an influential member of the European Union, the Portuguese pride themselves with experience in international relations, and they leverage that in dealings with countries within the EU itself. And another thing, of course, is that they on their own said they have made choices in their international relations, and one of which is that they want to be Africa's ladder or bridge to the European Union. So my sense is that they want to partner Nigeria in the search for money for investors to do this.
Okay.
The maritime route is attractive because Nigeria has embarked on the West Africa gas pipeline a long time ago. And
your understanding, is that what it is?
It is running up to, I believe, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo, Benin, Ghana, I guess up to Cote d'Ivoire, and it's just to stretch it and take it from Senegal up and connect to Mauritania, Algeria and Morocco, so that is to say, in effect, that what we need is people who are in countries or institutions that have the money to come in and work with us. Then another thing, of course, is the fact that given our population and the coming into place of the continental free trade area, which is the world's largest free trade area in the world, then everyone should seek to have an entry into the African market, and Nigeria would benefit immensely if it were to place itself as a hub for manufacture of goods that would be sold to African countries. So it's the ambassador used, it's a win-win for everyone and for all of us. Beyond gas, as you have said, yes.
I like it, when you said for Nigeria to be the manufacturing hub of Africa. Of course, that cannot happen without deployment of science, technology, and innovation. We're going to get into that, as we, make progress in this conversation. For now, we're going to take a short break.
Right, welcome back. Good to have you with us still, and we're having a conversation on the outcome of Mr. President's visit to Portugal. And earlier on, I had asked Madam Garba Shehu a question on the piping of the gas through the maritime route as suggested by the Portuguese leader. Mr. Akinshiju, I'd just like for you to give us an insight into what the modalities of this might be and how we can also get the buy-in, since this is a very huge and gigantic project.
Yeah, as I noted earlier, I think the difference is to have a major European country lead this initiative. So once you have that, all other European countries, would likely buy in, and even extend to other non-European countries. But principally, I don't see it as a government-to-government venture. I see it more as a trigger for investors to see prospects. Since there is an opening now, there's a new channel of interaction between countries that were supposed to clamp down on the use of gas because of so-called carbon emission, now encouraging the exploitation of gas, and that it's now we have an European country willing, to facilitate, one, providing that idea, leading that idea, and then willing to facilitate the piping, across the Atlantic bed. Now that for me is a major incentive for investors who had been latent, who had taken a back seat on deliberating and considering investing in gas. So this would, in the next, if the momentum continues, I believe that in the next 6 months you have investors, a consortium of investors coming together to start looking at the visibility of this, and in the next 1-2 years, I see a project like this taking off. So for me, it's exciting because that's a major segment of our industry that is going to come alive. More than about 206 trillion standard cubic of feet of gas reserve. That's a whole. It's bigger than even our crude oil reserve. Either in terms of quantity and in terms of value. So it means that we will still have huge source of revenue.
Okay, well, away from gas, which is a natural resource, and of course in modern times we'll talk about knowledge-based economy and no longer natural endowment-based economy. And having said that, I'd like to return to Ambassador Kefas. Ambassador, I am thinking towards the mechanics of implementation of all these MOUs, and I am specifically talking about technology transfer. Are we thinking in that direction? Because I saw research and development as part of the MOU signed, and of course when Madam Garba Shehu was talking about the need for Nigeria to become a manufacturing hub in Africa, that will certainly not happen unless we deploy science, technology, and the innovation. To what extent has any of the MOUs, tailored its interest, towards technology transfer in the areas where Portugal has a comparative advantage?
Thank you so much. Like I said, the 8 MOUs were all signed, and in terms of technology transfer, let's talk about the area of sports development, that where the minister went and inspected the sports city, which we all know, and this could also be set up in Nigeria. It was part of what was discussed, that the possibility of the Portuguese to also set up the football academy in Nigeria, so that we're able to learn from them. Also, of course, the training of our football coaches that could be brought into Portugal for training. So other area we are also looking at is the area of technology, like you said, ICT in particular. So that already there has been that type of technology between Portugal and Nigeria. Like the managing director of Galaxy Backbone told me that most of the ICT knowledge were from Portugal. And also let me also mention that the best payment system that we have in Nigeria that was acquired from Portugal. So he told me that about 80% of ICT that we can talk about now, all from Portugal. So I believe that this area is the fast-moving sector that can boom our economy. So we should take advantage of that. Then, of course, the implementation of these agreements is dependent on all the stakeholders. So as an ambassador here, of course, with my team, we will do everything possible to follow up, to make sure that these agreements are fully implemented. I also expect the relevant ministries, departments, and agencies in Nigeria, of course, including the private sector, to work, let us have a synergy working towards implementing these agreements. So I don't want why we only sign the agreement and then go back and sit down. So it doesn't make sense. So we need to really come together to make sure that we support the political leaders. The two presidents have already set the ball rolling. It is now there for us to make sure that we fully implement this agreement for the benefit of our citizens. So that's what I want to make this statement.
And I say, still stay with you. I know this is one relationship, as we said earlier on, that has been neglected for so long. But what exactly is our trade condition at the moment? You know, what is the volume of trade between Nigeria and Portugal?
Well, the volume of trade now is in favor of Nigeria because Portugal imports more from Nigeria. So we have more money coming into our own ports than we give Portugal. And I believe that this would be double if these MOUs are fully implemented. And again, that there are also other very important MOUs or agreements that are still pending, so which is also very critical in our bilateral relationship, like the agreement on avoidance of global taxation, also the investment promotion and protection agreement. So these agreements are very key that for businessmen to really interact and then conduct their activities, because there are these instruments that make it possible for the settlement of disputes. So, and we need to also work on this. These two agreements, and including the digital economy, could not be signed because that it involves a lot of ministries. So, but they are already scheduled to meet by next month. And we are also expecting that if it is convene and sign, that will also be another leap in our own bilateral relationship. So we cannot just only do other agreements without an instrument that will also regulate this relationship. So I call on the relevant NDAs to work toward the signing of these important agreements.
Okay, thank you. Back to the studio now, and we'll see have Gabashe with us. Ambassador has raised a number of key issues, right? But I wanted to look at this from the point of view of real technology transfer deal between a nation and another. Portugal is known for shipbuilding. They have a good shipping business. They're into big building. Will Portugal, for instance, accept to establish a ship construction firm in Nigeria so that Nigerians can also learn how to produce? We need some practical realities. Things when you say you are doing technology transfer, it is physical. Right. And that said, and other areas of partnership, because if the partnership does not impact on Nigeria's economy, manufacturing sector, which you raised earlier on, then of course we are like a continue our usual trading, deals with Portugal. We buy gas, then we buy machinery from them, we buy drones from them, we buy key international products from them, while they buy just gas and perhaps commodities like agricultural produce and what have you. So what will you be advising those key stakeholders in Nigeria who went there, who are business consultants, who also traveled to Portugal to do in terms of engaging their Portuguese counterparts?
Well, to begin with, the president has done his own bit. He has opened the door, for government to government and people to people communication, and it is for everyone to come forward and to take full advantage of this situation. In the course of this visit, I'm sure that the president spoke at not less than 3 places where he emphasized the need to hurry up, expedite the signing of bilateral air agreement, which has been long pending, has been long delayed. And I'm sure that from there, whoever is responsible in Nigeria will have taken lesson, would have taken the message that we need to expedite this. Now, what would they be bringing and that will impact positively on our economy? We have reported that, for instance, Nigeria's choice as one of the 5 countries to produce vaccines on the African continent had the strong backing of Portugal. And they are a very strong pharmaceutical economy. It's very clear that they have said it, they are going to key into it. So the thing then is that President Buhari will not now come to do the nitty-gritty for everyone. The authorities in that sector, businessmen, and thank God the Chamber of Commerce was present and they signed an agreement between their own counterpart. The NIPC, Nigeria Investment Promotion Council, also was there. They signed agreement with their counterpart. Look, what the President Sousa was saying, I am not talking about getting companies or Portuguese company trickling into Nigeria in 30s and hundreds. No, we are talking about they're pouring into Nigeria in thousands. So we need to create that enabling environment so that they come in their thousands, and when they come, they obviously will not be operating in the air. They need Nigerian hands, and thank God we have enormous. The biggest asset we have is the people asset we have, and a lot of it educated and skillful. So they'll be part of the process, and it will just take a little push. I mean, all of those who have achieved national development didn't just do miracles. With discipline and participation and association with those who know, we'll cross the line and we'll get there.
All right, Nii, we would not like a situation where the thousands of investors that will be coming from Portugal will come into Nigeria and then stamp upon, triple upon the Nigerians and the industries or this manufacturing, firms that we have here. We've had quite a number of these agreements, some of them gathering, dust and all that we're not even servicing. What can we do now, to be able to activate, these agreements, make them, not just active, but also, like you say, see concrete and, evidence of the fruit of these visits?
Yeah, a major facilitation of what we're talking about is the Joint Commission. A joint commission between that marks a bilateral relationship. It suggests an ongoing, relationship. It suggests review from time to time of activities and the substance of that relationship. And I think there is a suggestion of a joint commission in during this visit. So for me, it's appropriate that the joint commission is established so that you have full-time personnel reviewing, these MOUs, and not just reviewing, also engaging the necessary MDAs, who are not going to be the exact investors, but they are going to be the facilitators. They are going to be the ones that would create the enabling environment for these companies, to come into Nigeria. So it's important to have this on the front burner through a joint commission. And since it's in the pipeline, as it were, I think the only thing is to keep reminding, the system that this should be done so that we can use that to activate and, of course, sustain interest in the MOUs.
Okay, Ambassador Kefas, you've just listened to Mr. Kinsiji now talking about monitoring mechanism, a joint commission, and you are the eye of Nigeria in Portugal, and the success of this visit, of course, the credit will go to you when we succeed in this. Is there any monitoring mechanism or a joint commission, and what role are you going to play to ensure that all the agreements reached with Portugal will be implemented going forward?
Thank you once more. Like I earlier said that during my briefing, I mentioned about the establishment of a joint commission that is very key. So it's an umbrella that will bring all, that will really regulate the operations of all these MOUs that were signed. My Minister of Foreign Affairs, His Excellency Geoffrey Onyema, during this visit, he had a bilateral meeting with his Portuguese counterpart, where he also reiterated Mr. President's statement that there's need to establish a joint commission. So that has still been pending. So, and that, of course, I discussed this issue with the relevant authorities here when they came, that, of course, what they mentioned was that, importantly, that let there be MOU on political consultations. That will now lead to the discussion on joint commission. So, and which my minister had signed the MOU during the visit, as you can see, that the political consultations between the two foreign ministries was signed during the state visit. So we are now expecting that very soon that the two ministers are going to meet. And of course, that will now bring about the discussion for the establishment of joint commission. I agree with Hakim Shizu that joint commission is very key. So we are working on that and trying to push. But I'm sure that my minister had raised that issue, like I mentioned, and that, of course, his counterpart to also agree with him. So I hope that very soon we are going to do that.
Yes.
And then by
Ambassador
doing
Kefas,
that,
I'm afraid, Ambassador Kefas, I will have to stop you at that point. We're almost running out of time. Thank you. And let me also, well, I'm afraid we don't have much time. You want to just quickly say something?
Yeah, well, just two things to reassure the viewers and Nigerians that those problems of MOUs agreements being signed and abandoned is behind us now. As we speak today, the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation has a performance evaluation unit. They're following up on these things. And by the directive of the President, as we speak, after each of visits like this one, the Office of the Chief of Staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, has a mechanism now. They will set up a monitoring committee, a follow-up committee, and they will just be directing, okay, following these agreements, you do this, you do that. So that's where we are today.
All right, Madam Garba Shehu, thank you for that clarification. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, we thank you. Always a pleasure to have you join us. And good morning, Nigeria. And of course, Niyi Akinshiyu, Financial and Investment Analyst. Thank you. Always a pleasure too. Let me also appreciate the ambassador to Nigeria's ambassador in Portugal, Ambassador Alex Kefas, who joined us via Zoom from Lisbon. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for joining us, and do have a pleasant day. All right, let's take a look at sports, and don't forget Nigeria Super Falcons will be playing today at 9 p.m.
Nigerian-born Israel Adesanya outpointed Jared Cannonier over 5 rounds to retain his middleweight title at the UFC 276 in Las Vegas. Adesanya 32 used his superior movement and control of distance to outstrike Cannonier and secure a unanimous decision victory 49-46, 49-46, and 50-45.
And still the undisputed Adesanya.
Meanwhile, the Confederation of African Football (CAF) have confirmed the postponement of the Africa Cup of Nations finals scheduled for Cote d'Ivoire from June 2023 to January 2024. African football's governing body, through President Dr. Patrice Motsepe, announced on Sunday that the 34th edition, which was initially scheduled for June 23rd to July 23rd, 2023, would not be played as planned due to weather conditions in the West African country. And in tennis, 6-time Wimbledon champion Novak Djokovic reached his 13th quarter-final on Sunday as Roger Federer revealed his desire to play at the All-England club one more time. Top seed Djokovic seeking to move level with Pete Sampras as a 7-time champion defeated Dutch wildcard Tim Van 6-2, 4-6, 6-1, 6-2.
Tim van Rijthoven. But for Novak Djokovic.
Well, we have come to the end of today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. We'll bring you a fresh edition of the Good Morning Show. My name is Kirian Omar.
I'm Claire Dilabu Abdulrazak. Always remember to join us in our campaign against rape and rapists. From all of us here, have a good day.